Astra Militarum, is it worth the investment? We'll find out in this episode of Dice Club. All right, guys. Before we get into this this episode, I know I've been gone for a little bit. Just the month's been busy, but I want to point out the membership thing. Click the links. It will be in the link in the description. Talks about the memberships. We do have 3 different tiers of memberships: $1, $5, and $10. I appreciate you just clicking on the link, and if you're considering about being a member, that's great. We for $5 members, we do give away a billboard, customized billboard. So Dogma was the winner of November. So next month, which I think this is going to actually air in December, unless I can get it up, we will send this to Dogma. He did not pay for this. This was something he won. So if you guys are interested in doing this, or just like what I do and want to jump on the channel, I really appreciate that. Also, next month's winner, I already drew it. It's Greg Gonzalez. If you're watching this or watching anything else, I didn't mention it in the bat wrap, but you are the winner. I'll try to reach out to you and see if you want anything on it, or if you just want me to make one up for you. That's up to you. But with all that being said, all the bills being paid, click the link below. Like, subscribe, hit the notification. What's the wording? Hit like, subscribe for notifications. I'd like to thank everybody who's done so already. Can't remember what my normal words are, but either way, let's get into this, what we actually came for. My buddy Mark is here. He's been playing Astra Militarum now since the end of 9th edition.
Yep.
And in the 10th edition is all he's been playing. As we do it with all of these, we start off with narrative or any of the lore. So in the lore, what's your favorite? What do you got going on? What's your favorite in the lore? What do you like to read about? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, you've always got the good classic, the Deathcore Krieg.
Right. Yeah.
Their lore is
really
amazing just because they're just ridiculous. I mean, I know it's kind of overplayed with the shovel meme and other stuff.
Right.
But in the lore, you'll have like crazy things, like in the Siege of Rax when the Death Guard started unleashing chemical weapons on them, and they had 5 minutes to fight, and they're like, "All right, let's go," exactly. And they just fought like hell for 5 minutes,
right? Exactly.
And then they all died, and so, but like we're making a final stand. So just that crazy determination is just one of the best things of the Guard, one of the most entertaining aspects of the lore.
Yeah, my favorite is Gaunt's Ghost. I'm a huge Gaunt's Ghost fan. If I can do the 10th, if I had the money to invest in a brand new Guards army, I would do the 10th army. You know what I mean? But I don't. So, but no, I think that the lore for the lore of Astra Militarum is they're humans. It's literally humanity in this world of just total war, always chaos, and there's always the hope. The hope of humanity is always there, present, even in a Krieg, even on a death world army where guys are gonna die, But it's pretty good. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that the whole concept.
Just interrupt me, Mark. Otherwise, I could talk for. Okay. Just keep interrupting.
The concept of the regular people just trying their best and raging against the dark.
Right.
It's an amazing way. I mean, the Guard doesn't get a lot of attention in the story because they become kind of a punching bag because someone's got to lose to progress the narrative, and the normal people are normally the easiest to write that way.
Exactly.
But yeah, just that raging against the dark. That's millions of men and women just fighting tooth and nail to do their best they can against immeasurable odds. I mean, you got the stories of the lines of Cadians trying to fend off a Tyranid invasion, and it's not going to happen, but they're going to try their best. And every once in a while, when they do pull through, it's awesome just to see that.
It's the hope. It's the hope of humanity. It's always that, like even if they're not, like the Emperor's whole idea was not to have a religion, but turned into a type of God. Read Siege of Terra. If you guys haven't been reading Siege of Terra, man, it's really good. I'm on the last book, but either way, it's the faith in the Imperium. It's the faith in the Emperor, the quote unquote God Emperor, which is still, it's I don't know. It's a good feel good when the humans win. You know what I mean? Which is why I think God's Ghost catches a lot of Candice Kane catches a lot of fan support because these are guys who are humans and they're just winning. You know what I mean? They're just winning. Yeah, Grammaticus. I like John Grammaticus, but he's a perpetual, and it's not really a human thing. But
Yeah.
so speaking of Gaunt's Ghost, because I'm a big fan, I'll ask you this question: how are Gaunt's Ghosts played on the tabletop? Have you played them in 10th edition? I know they play in 9th edition. How do they play in 10th edition?
So on 10th edition, they're a phenomenal unit. They're probably one of the best bang for your buck points-wise units.
How many points are they? Do you know?
They're 100 points.
Oh, nice.
You get 6 characters in there because you have Gaunt, and then you have his 5 guardsman companions. You have Bragg, Larkin, who's a sniper. You've got Combe, and I'm trying to think the other 2. I don't remember the other 2 off the top of my head.
I don't remember really.
But yeah, they're one of the best units. So for 100 points, you get a unit, and they can go back into deep strike at the end of every turn as long as they're not in engagement range.
Yeah, and so they can play the mission pretty well.
Yeah, and they have lone op, so they're great for just jumping around the board. If you want to deploy homers, you can just put them in the corner, keep them safe, do something else.
Can't they shoot and move? Did I read that or no?
No, they cannot move. Okay. That's the sniper teams.
I got
the Ratlings.
I got you. Ratlings. Well, we'll get to units. We'll get to units. So, we'll do it now. So, units, flavorful units. I mean, Astra Militarum has flavor units. So I call them. I've been around since they've been guard. So I'm going to just refer to them as guard.
Yeah.
So, Ratlings, fun unit to play with. Well, they were in 9th edition. I don't know how they are in 10th edition, but they're flavorful. Bogren's a nice, fun unit to play with. Again, in 9th. I haven't played them in 10th yet. What other units do you think is flavorful that you like to put on the table just for the rule of cool?
So, I would say one of the fun units just to throw on the board, just rule of cool, regular infantry squads. Bunch of dudes with heavy weapons, mortars, las cannons, auto cannons, whatever, heavy bolters. You really only want to play them with mortars from a tactical perspective, but from a fun perspective, just a bunch of dudes running around with las cannons, taking out tanks.
Right.
I mean, and it's for what you pay for them, 60 points. It's awesome.
For 20 man?
For a 10 man, it's 60 points, 120 for a 10 man.
Gotcha.
And then the 10 man, you get 2 special weapons and 2 heavy weapons.
120 points for a 20 man.
Yep. Yeah. And then you trade out 4 of the guys for 2 heavy weapons because 2 guys counts as 1 heavy weapon when you're doing your list building there.
And each guy, 2 OC per guy.
Yep. Yeah. Every guy's got 2 OC, so plenty of objective control.
Yeah,
you just throw them out there.
Yeah, we'll get to a little bit more of this later on, but at 20 man, that's 40 just without characters. That's just the 20 guardsmen, 40 OC for 120 points, and you got to dig through 20 wounds with. In some cases, we can put up a 5-up fail no pain. If you're Krieg.
Yeah, Krieg get.
How much are Krieg?
The Krieg are 65, so they're only a 5-point premium. But
so it's 130 instead of.
Yeah. And then the character's 60 to give them the 5-up feel no pain.
Gotcha. It's still solid.
Yep.
Still solid. 5-up feel no pains, guys. If you're a guard player and you laugh at a 5-up or 6-up feel no pain, don't, because it's actually, you'd be surprised how many 5s and 6s you roll when you're rolling just handfuls of dice. Play style. What's your play style? What do you think this should correlate what your play style is? What do you think guards play style is the best at? So obviously we know they're a shooting army, but what else can guard do just besides just lining up tanks and shooting you?
So you've got 2 different ways of playing the guard. You've got your traditional, which would be like your lots of artillery, lots of static stuff. So you bring tanks, artillery, you bring quite a few guys, and you're really aggressive with your infantry, and you're really reserved with everything else.
Right.
So you just throw you might bring 100, 120 infantry, and you just throw them on the midboard. You can fight over the objective, you charge them into combat, you do whatever.
Right.
And you just try to drown them in bodies.
Right.
And then you have your tanks, your artillery, and you just line those up along the back lines and firing lanes, and you just go for it.
Right.
You just shell everything to oblivion, and you hope that you hit.
Right.
Because if you don't, then your guys get mulched immediately. But that's your more traditional style. But the nice thing about the way the guard is, they have 80 plus units in
Right.
the codex to choose from. You can kind of build your army to do what you want. So you can build like a purely Scion army. You can use flyers, deep strikes,
Right.
a lot of fun stuff like that. So
real mobile.
Yeah,
it's real mobile.
So and then you have the 12-inch move Torox transports for the guys, and it's like a stormtrooper brigade type thing. So it's hard and fast.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. And then you've also got your like your armored battalions. You can be aggressive with your tanks. You can push them out there. You can try and just armored spearhead. Right. That's a fun way.
And Lehman Russes are 2-up saves.
Yes.
Strength 10.
T11.
T11.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. One question I was going to ask, we didn't talk about the flavorful part of it. One unit. What about Rough Riders? How do Rough Riders play in 10th edition?
Rough Riders, they're kind of an interference unit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Their Meltalances can be okay. They're good against like Terminators, elite infantry, stuff like that, because you can, if you roll hot on your damage, you can wipe a 5-mana Terminators but you got to roll hot.
Right.
So a lot of times you're going to find you're just going to throw them at something to bog it down, slow it down, maybe do a good bit of damage.
Right.
Like maybe like if you say had like a tank coming in or like a big monster model, you just throw them at it.
Can they play the 12-inch move?
Yeah, 10 or 12-inch move.
And I mean, getting them over, what's the wound count on them? I'm just curious. Do you know?
They're 2 wounds apiece, T4.
So getting them in their cavalry, getting them over to maybe play part of the secondary mission.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the point cost.
I think they're 80 points for 5 guys.
For 5 guys, I mean, that ain't bad for 5 dudes.
No, and they move fast.
Yeah.
With an advance, you can pretty much get them halfway across the board with a decent advance roll.
So what playstyle, going back to this guy, kind of went off track. What playstyle do you like to use the most?
I actually really like to play the aggressive armored spearhead type.
Gotcha.
So I like to bring 60 to 80 guys and then at least 4 tanks. And I like to kind of push out into the midboard. And it's nice because you can change depending on who you're going up against. So like against like orcs or Tyranids or some other army that's hordy that wants to get into melee, you can stay back and you can play traditional in gun line, or you can, but against armies like Votan or sometimes Space Marines that don't have a lot of board presence, you can just clog up and get a lot of board presence out there.
So we actually talked about the opening question. Let me go back to this. The opening question is worth the investment. So the question that we both invested in guard.
Yeah.
You have how many? You have how much guard? I've
got to be close to 6,000 points.
So I got 10,000 points of guard. I bought some of mine secondhand. Got real good deals on some of the stuff. So if you want to invest in, because this is an army, where it's a big investment.
Yeah,
it's a big investment. However, for me, because I'm a 40K fan, and I'm asking you how you feel about this, because I'm a 40K fan, I think that any hobby that you guys are involved in, the money is always secondary to the fun and to the enjoyment. Unless, of course, you don't have the money, right? I mean, you're not gonna, if you're gonna turn your light, sit in the dark because you're gonna buy Warhammer instead of paying your light bill. Don't do that, But if you have the money to get into the hobby or any hobby that you do, my belief that it's the value of that hobby is the enjoyment, what you get out of it, right? So, to me, to answer the question of investment, I'm going to bounce this to you in a minute. The answer to the question is it a good investment? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think it's a good investment. But this is my hobby. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what we do. So how about you? You got 6,000 points of guard. It wasn't cheap, I'm sure.
No.
So, and we're both married, so our wives are okay with what we got going on. But go ahead.
I would say from an investment time, it is a huge money and time investment. If you're buying all brand new from Games Workshop, you're probably looking at anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 to build a 2,000 point list.
Right.
So it's one of the most expensive armies.
Right.
But that's if you're buying everything brand new.
Right.
I would say making it worth it. It's definitely worth it because of second cool factor, the fun factor.
Yeah.
The guard is really cool. It's really fun. Just the concept of just a bunch of tanks rolling up to the midboard. Even if you don't win the game, we just played a game.
Yeah, and don't ruin it. Don't ruin it because people are going to watch it. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, but even whether
Yes.
games are going good or
No
bad.
spoiler alerts, man.
Yeah.
No spoiler alert.
It's always super fun, and it's really fun for your opponent too.
Yeah.
So because even on a win, you're gonna lose probably at least 70 or 80 models
Right.
if you're running a lot of infantry, and they're gonna be having a blast picking up guardsmen, and you're gonna have a blast literally with the tanks.
Right.
So it's definitely worth it. Definitely one of the best ways to make it worth it getting into it is secondhand.
Yeah.
It's been around for so long. You can find old models, and even going to local hobby stores or looking online, you can still find the old sculpts for guardsmen and tanks, because now everything's new. But you can find the old sculpts for stuff for like dirt cheap. I mean, you can find 8th edition guys for like $25 for a brand new box at a store.
Exactly, and I think you have a good point. You know, buying I bought a lot of my stuff secondhand, and that's not to say don't buy them from Games Workshop, because obviously buy from Games Workshop, because that's why we do this, right? Games Workshop puts out the products that we like to play with. But I agree, buying secondhand, buying units, don't chase. Like, we're not super competitive. I mean, we play competitive games, but we're not competitive guys. We like to play this more so for fun. At least I can't speak for Mark. I'm sorry. But when I was getting into guard, I want to try Sentinels. I picked up a couple Sentinels on eBay for $15-20. I like them. They did well. Then the Cadian stand box drops. I bought that, and actually that's actually another good. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually another good way of getting into an army is the combat boxes, the patrol boxes and stuff that Games Workshop puts out that give you multiple units in the box is actually a really good value. It does save you quite a bit of money than trying to buy each one of these boxes individually. So if you were to try to buy that Cadian stand box, I think I ended up buying it for $200 or whatever it was. But all that units separately was well over $200. So it's worth it to buy it is worth it to put the investment in and buy the boxes, the box sets, because you do get your value. But like we were talking about, having some secondhand stuff in there, I think is worth it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the box sets are a great point, because the new Christmas box for Guard that came out, it's got 2 Dorns and like 20 infantry and a command squad.
And how much is it?
Each Dorn is 260 points, so that's a quarter of an army.
I mean, how much is it?
It's going to be close to $200.
Yeah, so and those Rogel Dorns are anywhere from $60 to $80.
Yeah, they're like $90 MSRP.
Yeah, so all right, so there we go.
2 of those, the infantry are pretty much free at that point.
Exactly.
So it's just 20 more dudes to throw on the board.
Exactly.
And the Kitty Stance box is great. I mean, you can probably buy a Christmas box, 2 Kitty Stance box, and then some Russes, and be pretty close to there. And
then just fill in your flavor after that of what you want to do. Like, if you want to add in Bolgren or Ratlings or whatever, Assassins, Inquisitors. I know those aren't considered guard, but
you could even throw in a knight if you like knights.
Yeah, exactly. You can splash in a little bit, but we're trying to stay mono on this. So we talked a little bit about units. We talked a little bit about playstyle. We do think it's worth it. The win rate, if you look at it competitively, we're just going to briefly touch on this, as I think we're somewhere around 44 or something, 45.
It's kind of fluctuated since 10th. It really
47.
spiked at the end of 9th, but we're back in the mid 40s. I've seen it go as high as 48 on 1 week, and I've seen it drop to 41. So you're middling the 40s. So it's not like a tournament winning, but occasionally you see a guy with a Storm Sword or a Baneblade variant just like stomp a competition. It's hilarious to see it.
Exactly. And we'll talk a little bit, staying in that playstyle range. Newer players, I tend to see, if you're a newer player, this is actually going to you. If you're a newer player, you can't be afraid, because what Guard does well is they trade. So you can trade very well if you're running out not 5, but like a 10-man or 20-man Guardsman unit, which is only going to cost you somewhere around 100 points. You don't mind losing that, because you're screening out stuff that really can do damage to your tanks, right? So the way I used to play Guard in 8th and 9th edition was Guardsmen were just screens. You're literally you had to go through, 60 to 100 guys to get to my tanks, which are going to do all the damage, right? So they do trade very well.
Yeah.
Right? They're like Tau. You do want to keep, definitely want to run your opponent running into 40 dudes trying to chew through 40 wounds is tough to do for anybody, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off, dude.
No, you're good. No, you're exactly right. You're going to trade your guardsmen for points,
Right.
or for you're going to trade them for points on the objectives, or
Right.
you're going to trade them to just go into something. So you might have a squad of Terminators or Intercessors. There's one or two guys left. You just throw them at that.
Right.
They're probably only going to do a few wounds after saves,
Right.
but that 1 or 2 wounds might be enough to finish off a unit. And even then, now that unit's not coming closer to you the next turn, or it's not making it to the objective.
Exactly.
And if it does make it to the objective, you probably got another 20 guys waiting for it. So,
and the OC on that.
Yeah.
But the OC on that, even with 10 guys, even if you cut that in half, if they don't pass, if they pass the battle shock test, you still got 20 OC on an objective with half a unit. That, you know what I mean? So that's pretty good. You know, it's pretty solid in my opinion.
Yeah.
For 80 points or whatever, 60 points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, even just running 10 mans instead of 20 mans.
Right, exactly.
I've had situations where you insane bravery 2 or 3 guardsmen, and that 6 to 8 OC is enough to get you that objective and it'll win you a game.
Exactly.
In the long run. It doesn't seem like it adds up, but that 5 points here, 10 points there, that one secondary, it can win you a game by the end of it.
Exactly. No, I agree. So we talked about the pros. We're literally speaking right now about the pros of the Army. What about the cons of the Army? So what do you think, in your opinion, is the cons? What's the bad thing about the Army?
So the cons of the Army is the cost. Is the big one, and also the time investment.
Right. So regardless of that, let's talk about on the game. Let's talk about on the game.
The cons are it takes a long time. Your movement phase, your shooting phase are going to take a while. So if you try to play fast, it's really hard to do. Movement trays help out a lot with that.
Right.
As long as you're not too particular, you just kind of throw them in there and you just move the line forward.
Exactly.
So movement trays are a great way, but it's a very time-consuming army. And if you do like to play competitively instead of casually, you're going to find you're running out of time.
Right.
By turn 4 regularly, if you're not really trying to speed roll and so you have to kind of memorize stuff for that time investment. And then also it can be a little mentally draining when you've got that much on the board. It's easy to make mistakes because you mismove one thing or you spend a CP where you shouldn't. It's easy to make mistakes too. So, and I would say pre 10th edition, the way they build the army, because you had the army special rules, it was very low skill.
Right.
Like you just had to know how to move and shoot. That was it. And you could probably win the game. But now where every unit has a special ability now, the skill barrier to play guard well is gone way up. Right. Because when you're building your list, you everything has to work together.
Exactly. And we didn't really talk about the orders. We didn't talk about orders, but let's get into that now. So guard has unique ability that gives orders. Which is like six orders, I believe, something like that. Six orders, where you can give units different abilities. They're coming from a character that goes onto a unit, and you have different characters that can give it out. So just real quick, that's what orders do. And what you're talking about, as I agree with, is that you have being able to synergize those orders with the different units, not just the unit that character is attached to, but every unit that's around it that he can get orders to, like for example, Lord Solar, you know what I mean, who can give out more orders, or Ursula, or characters like that can kick out specific orders to multiple units, except just the one they're attached to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The order, the character's cheap, mostly, other than Lord Solar, but he's the general. He's the
centerpiece. He's the centerpiece of the army.
And he's well worth it because he can tell 3 things to do whatever. But yeah, I mean, the orders they're good. You do have to build when you're building your list. You're essentially structuring it like you would a real military. Right. You're looking at a real command structure. You're gonna have a lieutenant equivalent, like a Cadian Castellan or a Death Corps Marshal for every 20, 30 dudes, and you need that. Otherwise, you're because guardsmen with orders are going to be able to do a lot. Like if you give them the order to for leadership and OC, they get plus duty and honor. They'll get 6 up for leadership, and they'll also go to OC3 apiece, and you can move 60 OC onto an objective.
Yeah, which is solid.
And it's yours now.
Yeah, which is really good.
Yeah,
and really, when you do that, you're going to hold that for 2 turns. Yeah, essentially, because I don't think there may be stuff in the game that can get 60 units off the 6 wounds off the board it's a unit of 20 dudes,
Yeah.
right?
So you have to chew through all 20.
Yeah, there's some stuff that can get 20 wounds off the board, but not a lot. So you're at least going to hold that for 2 turns. You know what I mean? Some of the cons that I felt playing when I played was, I agree with you a lot on what you said. It is time consuming. There is a lot of things that you have to remember, because one move can put you out of an order range, at least in 9th edition. So I have a tip for you guys who do want to go to tournaments and do want to play competitively and get clocked. Don't finish. Is the biggest thing that I found when I play guard is you don't have really, like, I think you hit it right on the head. It is a mentally draining army to play.
Yeah.
Especially by that third turn, because you have to watch what you're doing. You have to, in your opponent's movement phase, you have to already be thinking about what's happening. Not that you should do this anyway. You should really do this anyway, regardless of what army you play. But specifically, more so with guard, is because you have to be able to move everything quick and not forget what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? And some of these guys that get clocked, I don't think they do that. I think they take that mental break when their opponent's moving, instead of playing out what they should do. Well, if this unit dies, I got to be able to do something else. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the cons. I think guard is very fun. I enjoy it like you do, but I think guard is a mentally exhausting army to play.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that accounts for what you're explaining. It accounts for a lot of the tournament win rates and stuff,
right,
because you got to really know how to play guard to win tournaments with them. So that's why you seldom see people like top 3 with guard, because it's like there might be 20 guard players that go to an event and they might do really well score-wise because they're trading, but there's only 1 or 2 that can really break through the barrier of those higher level armies.
It's just a discipline. Yeah. I think you have to be a very disciplined player to play guard, in my opinion. To play guard, not to play guard by itself, but to play guard at tournaments. We're going to get real quick into a tournament scene, but talk about this now. I think to play tournaments, you have to be a consistent, disciplined player involved in the 3-hour game. You literally have to be involved in the 3-hour game that you're playing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that when you're playing every army, because you should. But they're with stuff like guard, with sisters, with Tau, with Necrons, with Tyranids. When you're bringing orcs, when you're bringing these horde armies, you have to be invested. You have to be invested for 3 hours in that game, or 2 hours and 2.5 hours, depending on what.
Yeah, you're not leaving the table.
You're not leaving the table. You're not going to get a drink. You're not doing all that stuff. And I think there's 2 things. One, if you like that kind of thing, and you're that kind of, and you are disciplined enough to do that, I think it's really fun. I actually think guard has so many tools that they can play 10th edition so well. My opinion, again, this is my opinion. You guys might disagree with you, but I think guard plays so well that I just don't think that guard players now are, because we're still in indexes, we're trying to find that combination. And I think, so here's my personal opinion on this. I think sometimes tanks are traps. They are killy, but I think everybody, when you bring a tank, when you line up 5 Leman Russes and 2 Rogue Dorns, you think you're going to blow everything out of the water. And you want to. So sometimes, and it could. You actually could. Don't get me wrong. You could. That can happen without question. It's happened ever since we've been playing this game, right?
Yeah.
It's happened in 8th, 9th, and I haven't played it in 10th, but I'm sure it happens in 10th because we were talking about that before this. You can wipe things off the board. No problem. It's that if you don't wipe things off the board, now what happens?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's really unreliable, because
you're right.
You're so many of the weapons are D6 plus 3 or just D6. And so if you're not going up against an army that has like 20 man units that you're going to get plus 4 blast, if you're not getting a lot of blast on large units, if you're going against a more elite army and you roll 4 or 5 shots on your big gun that you need to go off, like say you're trying to take out like an enemy vehicle with your flat damage 3 strength 12 Dorn gun, and you roll 4 on the number of shots, you're probably only going to hit 2, and you might only wound 1. So,
exactly.
You'll find that a bad shooting phase can turn the game around so fast.
That's you're 100% correct. Like if you can't take things off the board the way you want to take things, at least on average dice, then that's where guard runs into problems. However, that's the killing part of guard. Yeah. I actually think they play the mission because of the units. They explain something.
Yeah, that's all good.
Because of the units, because of the Swiss Army knife type thing the index that they have, they could play the mission very well. Like I played a little bit of Sisters in 10th, and they could play the mission very well as long as my secondaries line up to where I need them to. You know what I mean? Like obviously we're still drawing, so there's a little bit of luck, but they could play the mission very well. And guard can trade very well, so I think guard could trade well as well. Cons are you really gotta look. I mean, you really gotta pay attention. And like you said, it's a very strenuous mind warping. Not mind warping, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say. It's
exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So, units. What do you think are some must-have units, and that are you have to be in the list? And what do you think are some underrated units, or overrated, underrated, and must-have?
Yeah, I would say the must-have, the Dorn right now. Mm-hmm. It's 260 points. They gave it a 25-point drop from 285.
Right.
Which at 260, it's at 285. I was content to take two of them in a tournament list.
Right.
So you bringing them at 260 is a no-brainer. Like bringing at least one on the list is a must-have because it's just got so much firepower. It's such an effective use of CP for Overwatch. Mm-hmm. And then if you bring an Engines here for 45 points, you're only at 305. Right. And it has a 4-up invul the whole game. Right. And plus its ability to blank one attack down to 0. Right. The thing's just stupid durable. It's way more durable than 260
points. And it's a 2-up save, right?
It's a 2-up. It's 2-up save. So you get it on a 2-up, 4-up. That thing's not going to get shifted, even against Tau with railguns. Right. Like you can blank a dev wound outright, and then that thing just save a command reroll, and you could probably survive at least 2 or 3 Tau shooting phases with a 4-up invul on that thing.
Which is good. How about overrated?
Overrated,
in your opinion?
I would say
guys, this is only our opinions. This could be, you might like something else, or think something else is underrated.
I would say, going with the tanks are kind of a trap thing. The Lehman Rustas are a bit overrated.
Are they? What's the points on them?
So at the beginning of 10th, they were like 200 a pop to 220. Now they're 180 for the regular ones, and then they range from 155 up to 205 for the tank commander version of it, which is the officer. And I would say they're definitely overrated because, like the Lehman Russian Monsters, they're good. Right. But for 200 points in the guard, for an extra 60 points, that's a Dorn. Right. So it's really hard to justify spending 180, 200 points on a vehicle that doesn't have an invul, and its abilities are okay. Like you get some rerolls, or you could do some extra AP or some other stuff, but nothing really groundbreaking. Right. When for the same points cost, you could take an artillery unit and an infantry squad, and the artillery unit might do a similar damage output, and it doesn't even need line of sight, so it doesn't even have to be in harm's way.
And they're swinging. Lehman Rustas are swinging. At least that's how they were in.
Oh yeah, they still are. Yeah, they're completely dependent on number of shots, and then I've had games where if you bring the plasma sponsons, which are great for dealing with elite infantry, they'll almost blow themselves up. They're like, you'll fail 3 or 4 hazardous and kill your own tank, even though they never shot it. And you're just like, well, I needed that damage too, because I'm going against Space Marines. I can't just leave it damage 1, because if I do, then I'm barely going to touch this unit intercessors.
Excuse me. What about must-have units? I know you touched on a Rogue Dorn.
Yeah, Gaunt's Ghost. That's a great one. From a flavor aspect, they just jump around there, they do all that stuff. But they're, for 100 points, being able to deep strike every turn, and having the lone op. And every guardsman there has 2 wounds instead of 1, so you're getting as much durability out of that squad that you do out of a 10-man unit of infantry.
And for 100 points, like you said, moving around the board, jumping in and out of deep strike is super good, movement-wise. So I would think that's pretty good. Let's see. We talked about orders already. How about strats? Strats, are the strats good? Are they not good? Are there some that are okay?
They're kind of specialized. They're really, the stratagems are other than reinforcements, which lets you bring back a regiment unit at full strength. The strats are pretty situational. Right. So I mean, when you want the extra AP, but if you already have AP3 demolisher cannons or
Right.
AP2 stuff. You having an extra pip of AP might not really be worth it, especially against things like, I mean, it's so many times you go up against custodies, and your tanks you're bouncing the invul most of the time anyhow, so it doesn't really matter because it's las cannons, it's the big stuff that you care about, and you're like, well, I already have AP3, and you have a 4 invul. I'm not going to go anywhere, so it's kind of situational, and it's 2 CP to do the one for the one that lets you do it with the stratagem. So 2 CP just to get 1 extra AP, unless you know you need that, it's probably not worth it.
Right, exactly. So how about enhancements? Anything, same thing, enhancements are good, not good, specialized? What do you...
They're not good.
They're not good.
The enhancements right now are, like before you could take like the relic weapons that were like really powerful, like AP3 damage 3 Lehman Russ cannon, or like specialty weapons.
Right.
So you could, and so right now the only enhancement that's really worthwhile is the Grand Strategist. It's 15 points and it lets you give a second order. So if you're going to bring a tank commander and you're going to spend 205 points on them, and you're going to bring other Russes and Dorns, spend the 15 points to give it to him, and now he can tell 2 other tanks to do better, and that'll make a armored column kind of work and kind of be worth it from the points cost. Because if your tanks don't have orders, that's why Lehman Russes, I think, are pretty overrated. Because if you don't have an order on a Russ, it's not going to get its points value back. It needs someone to babysit it, to tell it to shoot better, or to move onto the objective, or whatever it needs. It's going to need help.
So you've been playing now for 10th edition. What do you think? You having fun with it?
Yeah, it's a crazy fun army. I mean, I've done leagues, I've done some tournaments. Even at tournaments, Guard not being a great army, being able to, like you said, being the Swiss Army knife of list armies, pretty much being able to do everything, consistently scoring 70 plus points at a tournament, even with losses, is totally doable.
Yeah, and we're going for fun.
Yeah.
As always, we're going for fun. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody wants to win, but
from a fun perspective, I never, even no matter what the situation is, whether it's casual play, other stuff, I always have fun with the Guard army.
Yeah.
If I get pasted by a Tyranid swarm, it's hilariously fun because you're just it's just the Starship Troopers.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing.
You get the Starship Troopers vibe of just a bunch of dudes, and you're just like, kill the bugs, and you can really get into that second cool factor when you're playing, or when you're playing against Chaos or other stuff. You can just be like, these traitors,
exactly.
And you can throw a squad of Deathcore Krieg 20-man into a Demon Primarch or like an enemy Dreadnought, and you can be like, this is what the lore would be.
Exactly.
It's a Hail Mary last ditch. They're in the lines. Let's go for it. Bayonet charge. And do with some damage.
You're legitimately playing out books, man. In some games, man, I'm just going to go up and run and see if I can stab a Plague Marine in the face. And if I don't make it there, I don't make it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the best one is just the random charges.
Yeah.
Trying to get out of the tactical and into the lore part. When I play with my Kriegsmen, a lot of times, no matter what the charge is, if there's a charge. Right. And you make a boxcar charge, turn one with your Kriegsmen into like a squad of like Gene Stealer neophytes or something.
Right.
And it's just completely mucks up the other guy's board. And it's hilarious because you just throw him at it. And he's like, what are you doing? It's like, this is Guardsmen.
This is what we do.
It's completely insane. And that's the fun part of the army.
Right.
Or like just charging a tank into something. Like say there's a squad of Gene Stealers that are going to be, you just charge the tank.
Right.
You don't really care because you got 4 more.
Right, exactly.
So you just throw it in there and try to run over some bugs. And you're just like, let's get them. And then,
go ahead.
Yeah, and then the fun part about it is a lot of times playing that way actually works out. It actually scores you points. It actually wins you games. So you can just play like an absolute lunatic and just win games doing it. So it's just so much fun.
So what I'm hearing, Mark, is you're taking on that Deathcore Krieg mentality.
Oh yeah,
and just running in there with shovels. And trying to
insert shovel meme here, gas mask noises, all the stuff. Yeah, because I mean, you could just throw, even with the Kazarkin, you can take the Meltamines.
Right, exactly.
So it's like 2d3 mortals against a vehicle on when you get within 3 inches, you can use it or whatever.
Right.
So you just charge a squad into like a dreadnought, and then like blow it up, and the guy's just like, "What? Like, what is going on?" It's like, that's it. That's the Guard. No,
super fun, super thematic. I actually enjoyed. I started with Guard. That was my first army. Codexes. Let's talk about this. We have GW's attention. So, what do you want to see in the Guard Codex?
In the Guard Codex, I want to see the flavor come back.
Yeah.
So previous editions, Guard had a lot of flavor. All the different army rules you could choose from. So you could do like a mechanized infantry with rules to support it. So you could do like a Steel Legion,
right?
Or you could do the when you're below starting strength, the Sisters rules type deal. So you could do the Death Corps Krieg, the Martyrdom, and the insane shovel charges and stuff. Right. And it would pay off because your guys would get stronger as they got chewed through.
Exactly.
And you could even do like Morning Iron Guard stuff. So you could do like all your las guns get heavy.
Right.
And they get extra shots though.
Right.
So so you pay a price to get, because back then heavy meant -1 to hit if you move.
Right. Right.
So you could do lines of infantry, like old fashioned, like the Vostroyans.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you could bring army rules that made tanks have more OC and tanks had buffs. So you could buff tanks that way. So being able to just play the Guard in so many ways, having the artillery and the line infantry, or having the tanks, having the mechanized, just that flavor of all the old Guard
instead
stuff.
of everything being, I know they're kind of leaning to everything is Cadia now, and I guess it's okay for newer players, but for the older players that liked the flavor, like the Catachan and like you said, Vostroyans and Krieg and all the other ones that went down with it, a lot of us would like to see that flavor come back.
Oh yeah,
a lot of us will. I mean, that's cool. The Rough Riders, you brought them out. That's awesome. But keep it flavorful. You know what I mean? Like, I personally think, and this is my opinion, I could be wrong on this, and we talked a little bit about off camera. I think that, I know people got a bad taste in their mouth from the old Card Codex get released, and we only got 6 months to play it. But I also think that was the setup to 10th edition. I do believe that the Guard Codex is going to be very similar to the 9th edition Guard Codexes, based on what we're seeing in like NIDS and Space Marines so far, where you're getting your 6 detachments. I think it's going to be flavorful. So we are going to be able to, this is my opinion on it, that we are going to be able to get a Catachan type army, or a Vostroyans type army, or a Krieg, Death Guard Krieg type army.
I mean, the way they're setting up the detachments, they have to.
Yeah,
I mean, there's really no way to put together a Guard Codex with different detachments without using the flavor of the old units.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, having that extra flavor in the Codex is a must-have. And if they don't do it, they will. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, they will, because we've already seen that with Space Marines. I mean, even though they took out the chapter rules, like between like Salamanders and Imperial Fists and everything, you still can, with the detachments, and we did not do a Dice Club video on this, and we just didn't have the time to do it, where you can set up a Salamander type list if I really needed to, that fits that list. Now, if you want to play your Ultramarines as Salamanders, I'm not a huge fan of that, but at least you can play your Salamanders as Salamanders, similar. I believe that they're going to do that the same exact. NIDS are doing the same way. I believe they're going to be able to do the same thing with Guard. You're going to be able to, again, this is my opinion. I don't have any inside information, that they are going to, I think you're going to be able to do that. Like you were just saying, I think you are going to be able to flavor in that, and I think it's going to be great. I mean, I don't need to go ahead.
I was going to say, they're definitely leaning to it, because they even brought back some of the old metal cast models for limited editions. They brought back like Steel Legion. You can buy Steel Legion on Forge World.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and you have all those guys, and you find those secondhand metal models and those eBays, and you go and collect all the Steel Legion or all the old Vostroyans or whatever. You get those old metal cast models, and slowly over time you build your flavorful Guard army the way you want it.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh, cool. Or like if you like Mordians, you can get the older sculpts.
Right.
The Guardsmen,
exactly.
And they look way more Mordian once you painted them up.
Exactly. No, I think I agree. I think Guard is, just kind of wrap it up. I agree with you. Guard is super fun. Super thematic when you're involved in the lore of 40K, like you were saying. It's just a fun army to play. I do think they could be. I think they played 10th edition very well. It's just a matter of you having to have the patience and the discipline to do it. Just can't always kill things. You know what I mean? Yeah. But and I know you do, and we're just talking. I know you.
No, that is the trap of playing Guard, is you get into the killing power. Yeah. You just want to kill everything. You don't care about the missions anymore. But
exactly.
The Guard's there to play the mission. Everything plays the mission well. So if you focus on just killing, you're probably not going to score well. That's how you get into those artillery skew lists, where it's 90% of the list is just stuff that wants to sit in the backfield and blow stuff up.
Exactly.
You'll table your opponent by turn 4, but you're not going to score any points.
Yeah. You're also by that time losing 70-40 or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But Hey, Mark, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I will have Mark on again. This isn't going to be the first time he'll be on more. Plays Black Templars, so we'll bring those on eventually. I don't know when, but we'll work out our schedule. But Mark, thanks for coming on, and as always, guys, God bless and peace out.